Hi everyone, Jun Shen here, and I'm really excited for today's chat. Konami and Neobards recently released Silent Hill F, an incredible addition to the Silent Hill franchise, and more importantly, to the horror genre overall. A dark and thrilling survival action game about a Japanese high school girl whose hometown is engulfed in fog and infested by grotesque monsters as she uncovers the truth about herself and her world. And to tell us more about Silent Hill F, I spoke with Al Yang, the games director from Neobards Entertainment. We talk about L's journey in games, Neobards' work as an external studio, and discuss the explosion of the horror genre from AAA to indie and how some of that informed the development of Silent Hill F. We got to learn more about the studio's collaboration with Konami and Ryukishio 7, the thought process behind the game's standout elements, including its looping narrative and spiky combat design, and also the community conversations surrounding the game. Please enjoy this deep dive of Silent Hill F.
Stop trying to manipulate me. You're in pain because you choose to be. I'm moving forward. Stop! Come back here and face me! I won't be told what to do. My choices are my own. Let's do this. Shimizu Hinako.
Hi, Al. Welcome to the Game Maker's Notebook. Really excited for today's conversation and to learn more about Silent Hill F from you. How are you doing?
Doing good. As you know, the game shipped recently, so we're kind of in the process of looking over player feedback and seeing how to address that kind of stuff, and just looking for the next thing right now. Yeah.
We are super blessed to have you here with us to, deep dive into the game. But before we get into Silent Hill F proper, I just loved for the audience to learn a little bit more about you and your sort of game development journey. I understand that you've worked on everything from MMOs like World of Warcraft to action games, including the Pocket Edition of Final Fantasy 15, and more recently the Dead Rising remaster, Dynasty Warriors M, multiplayer games like Resident Evil Resistance, and of course now with Silent Hill F. What has sort of been your favorite genre or type of game to make in your career so far?
Mm, I think for me, that's a little bit of a tough question because I think I just like gaming in general. So there's many different types of things, and then every single genre has its own kind of unique and interesting thing to kind of pull on. So, like, mechanically, I'm, like, a really big fan of fighting games, for instance. So PlayStation
Nice.
All-Stars is really fun to work on in terms of just kind of pure mechanical kind of stuff. Uh, Horror games, so Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition is really cool because I actually really I love RPGs, and that was the game that
Amazing.
got me to come back to Taiwan in the
Oh,
first place. Yeah.
that's
So,
that's really really amazing.
at the story there was that I was working in Germany at the time, and there's a game I was working on called Shards of War, which was kind of like a, top-down, uh, kind of like a twin stick
Music.
shooter
Yep.
MOBA,
Yep. Yep.
and I got a message from one of the guys I used to work with in China. So I used to work for THQ in China, working on, online games, for the Chinese market, and that's when THQ was still alive and trying to push, more and more into kind of online gaming,
Right.
and he was like, "Hey, man." I was like, "You wanna come work in Taiwan?" I was like, "Dude, I'm in Germany right now." I was like, "I'm okay." I was like, why is this? He's like, unless you have like, I was like, you know me. I was like, unless you have like a big IP, like you have like, like a Silent Hill, like Resident Evil,
Yep.
like a Final Fantasy, like a Street Fighter. I'm like, I'm good for now. And then he's like, hey, when can you take a call right now? I'm like, oh no, oh no. And it turned to be Final Fantasy. And I was like, well, I
You
guess
had
I'm
to move
going
for
back to
that.
Taiwan. I
You
had to
had to
do
move for
it.
that.
Exactly. I was like, oh, I'm moving back.
Man, that is incredible. And how long ago was that exactly?
What year is this? It's 2025
Yep,
right
yep.
now. Oh God. Oh God. It's been a while. I would say about eight
Wow.
and a half years ago. Yeah, it's been a while. Uh, so after Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, um, the company I was at the time, I think it's called XPEC. Some stuff happened there, and it split into a couple of different smaller companies,
Right.
basically. And then the company I went on to work with was called Neobards at that time.
Yep.
So it was a brand new company at that point, comprised of a lot of former members of this previous company. And the same conversation happened again. And I was like, all right, guys, I've come. Uh, I helped work on Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. It was crazy because we built that game it was like a cute crib notes of the main game. So it's
Yeah.
like all the main story beats.
Yes.
Um, we took like the actual cutscenes and made them like kind of chibi. So
Yeah,
it was the
big fan of that game, by the way.
oh, thank you. I think I was a really big fan of Final Fantasy in general, but
Yep.
also it was really cool to take this gigantic, really complicated game and kind of like distill it down.
Yep.
It- it's a demake actually when you think about it. I'm a big fan of like
Yep.
early like Taiwanese demake where they put like Street Fighter onto or like Mortal Kombat onto the Famicom onto the NES, and you're
Yep.
like, how do they do that? And like, what do they had to cut to make that happen?
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so at that point in time, uh, I was like, all right, we finished this thing in like a year. It's crazy. I'm tired. Uh, it's time for me to kind of keep moving. And when the company, and I was like, oh wow, the company that got me to do this is kind of dangerous right now. So I was like, all right, uh, it's been a pleasure. Everybody keep in touch. And then the same guy came to find me again. He's like, hey man, we're starting a new company. You interested in coming aboard? I'm like, well, unless you have like Final Fantasy or like Silent Hill or like Street Fighter or like Resident Evil. I was like, I think I need a break. And he's like, can we talk right now? I'm like, oh no. And that was Resident Evil. It wasn't Resistance at the time, but there was a Resident Evil project at the
Amazing.
time. And then and then one thing led to another, and here we are.
That is so amazing. And like when we think about like people's careers, you just constantly like sort of had this thing lined up one after the next where you just kept getting into really amazing, incredible projects that you were also obviously fans of. So like that is such a wonderful story. um I'd love to hear a little bit more about Neobards, and I think so do the audience. Neobards has been known for years to be an incredible studio, sort of supporting massive and beloved franchises like the ones you mentioned. Um, but of course, now they're taking on being the lead studio for a game like Silent Hill F. What does it mean for Neobards to have taken on such a flagship project and one where you led the creative direction?
Mm. So I think this is very interesting because you see this to me, I see this with other companies, kind of like Bluepoint at
Mm,
Sony,
that's right.
uh, is is that we start off as an external development studio, and there are, how to put it, financial reasons for
Sure.
this that maybe your average kind of like fan won't probably take into account. And for us, we say this a lot, which is like players don't really care what the troubles or what the challenges of the company are or the challenges during development. All they care is about the final product at the very end. What is this game fun? Am I getting the best
Right.
value for what I'm paying for this? Um, so for us, we have a very strong strategy, which is we try not to overextend ourselves too much financially, and I think that that got us through COVID uh, really well. Which is we do a lot of external projects
Mm.
of different types. And we try to diversify. So as you kind of mentioned before, there's a lot of kind of remakes and remasters we did. I think the earliest ones we did from the very from the very beginning were the Onimusha remaster,
Yep.
Devil May Cry HD collection, Resident Evil 0, 1 for Switch, uh, and then we kind of moved on to uh, the Resident Evil remake 2, 3,
Yep.
7 HD, Mega Man Legacy Collection. Oh God, as you
Amazing.
can see, there's a lot of these, and these things that might not seem very glamorous to a lot of players out there, but for us, it's a kind of a strong strategy to keep the company stable and kind of
Yep.
keep the lights on, kind of in addition to working on other stuff. Um, and then, as you mentioned, the external development stuff we do. So, Resident Evil Resistance,
Yep.
uh, Dynasty Warriors M or Nexon, uh, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Um, so a lot of these things that have a lot more creativity
Okay.
to them, and it's always tough because I think for a lot of people, for external studios like us, it's always like you need someone, you need a partner to give you a chance to kind of prove yourself,
Yep.
to kind of be like, hey, these guys can't don't just do these just like oh remasters, ports, this kind of stuff, or just like add-ons to existing games, but they're capable of handling like full projects by themselves. Um, and I think the first time that happened is honestly with Resident Evil Resistance
Hmm.
uh, with Capcom. So that was a pitch from our end from Capcom. They came in, they're like, "Hey, we want to do this kind of stuff. We want you guys to make a multiplayer Resident Evil game to kind of go along with Resident Evil Remake 3." And then like, here's some ideas. And then we worked with them for a while. They're like, we threw some ideas back and forth, and ultimately, we are able to lead the creativity of it. And I think that was kind of the start of when we could kind of go out and talk a little bit and do a little bit more creative work.
Yep.
And that led to Silent Hill Ep and Okamoto-san and his team at Konami, I think, also took a very big leap of faith in us based on the stuff he's seen us do.
Amazing.
And when we talked to them, and then so we're really grateful to him for giving us this chance. And like I said, this is more like something I would tell everyone kind of in the game industry, just in any industry, is that a lot of this stuff, people are like, oh yeah, we did it because we worked hard. We did it because, you know, what do you call it? We train for this, or like we're just the best at what we do. And then we're like, yeah, I think we all work hard. We're all trying to do the best job we can. But a lot of times it's just about being lucky. It's about
Yep.
being in the right time at the right place. But having done the work to capitalize on it. So it's not just getting lucky and getting this chance that makes a difference. It's being prepared to
Yep.
capitalize on that chance. And I think for us, we were very fortunate to get this opportunity. But I did think we did make a good use of it.
Yep.
So we're really happy with where we are right now. And first game in this genre, it's our first horror game. So we're happy with what we have seen so far. Definitely can be better. A lot of stuff we can improve on. But for us, it's like a good first step for the next project.
No, that's a really incredible story, and thank you so much for sort of like sharing the sort of the journey to getting to this point. I think a lot of people in the audience, especially who are also working on a lot of other sort of service based companies or studios that are also looking to make the shift to making their own sort of creative leaps. There's a lot to take away from sort of yours and your team's experience getting to this point, and then there's also a testament to you know just as you mentioned, there is a degree of luck to have reached this point, but it's what you then do with that luck. It's how do you socialize about the project? How do you craft the pitch essentially to win it? Essentially, which I assume took quite a bit of work and conversations. But it's also something that I think your company has been in a position to have done for quite some time, given the sort of the types of projects you've been able to take under your wing.
And I think there's something out there. If there's any large companies listening to this podcast, or anybody looking for more more developers out there,
Yep,
I'd really say, and this isn't a pitch for Neobards. This is just like I would say, please take a risk, take a
take a
look at
chance.
more
Yep,
external, take a chance on more external developers out
that's
there.
right.
Uh, because I think for us as a whole, something that, and this surprised me because I didn't start as an external developer.
Sure.
I started in house at other companies. Is that when you're working with the other people's kind of projects, or on these kind of contract projects, you're given very strict timelines and budgets
Of course.
that you
Yep.
can't really slip.
Yep.
So the thing I found that working at an external developer, what NeoBards was very good at in the beginning when I started here, is that you do what they're very good at doing the most you can with what you have
Yep.
in the time you have. It's less about, I think the mindset from a lot of external developers is not like, oh, I'm gonna do this crazy thing over here. It's more like, okay, well, here's our budget, here's a time,
Yeah.
this is what our people can do.
Yep.
What can we do in the best time, with the most value? So actually I have an example for you, is on Resident Evil Resistance.
Hmm.
Um that was a kind of like a 4v1 asymmetrical kind of mastermind
Yep.
versus a kind of survivor thing. And we picked that because of the theming. But the reason the mastermind had a deck, and he had a deck of cards, and he was kind of placing this stuff out there and a lot of the permutations there, is that this is a very fast turnaround on this project.
Mm.
We actually made this, it was a design shift in the middle of the project, and the team was actually, I'll say half of them play a lot of Magic the Gathering, a lot of card games.
Love it.
Too many, I would say. So I was walking out, just be like 3 boxes on some guy's table.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, "What's going on, man?" He's like, "Yeah, we're drafting at lunch." He's, "You wanna come?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." But this would be like I'm like, "You drafting again today?" I was like, "Yeah." Uh, and then because a lot of the guys are actually from the Final Fantasy team, they're
Right.
all big Final Fantasy fans. So when
Yeah.
the recent expansion came out,
Oh my gosh.
it's like, "Hey, guys, you wanna go out for dinner?" He's like, "I don't have money this week." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I just
I just blew it
reasons."
all.
I was like, "Wait a second." And then, like, the Amazon boxes would start coming into
Oh
work. I'm like, "Oh,
no.
oh god." I remember this one day because I think they all ordered at the same time, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
6 boxes came in, this is all opening. I'm like, "Oh my god, you guys, there's, like,
Dude,
thousands of dollars of cardboard
it
on this."
was it was a crazy that was a crazy couple of months, I think, for most people who are into that. I definitely spent a lot that couple of months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, the one the sorry, going back, it was
No, it's great.
one of the key reasons we chose the kind of like the TCG kind of
Yep.
card, kind of each mastermind has a deck, and then like random draw, all that kind of stuff, and then resources. It's instead of like having mana, it's like, okay, so we build up over time, all that kind of stuff, is because these guys are super familiar with TCG mechanics in general, and that's
Yep.
what they really like.
Yep.
So by choosing this direction, we actually had like a built-in knowledge base that we could kind of iterate and work on super fast. So that's something else that we really pay a lot of attention to during the turnaround, is like, okay, what is the team actually good at?
Yep. The
Because
strengths. Yep.
exactly, one of the big problems with the external development is that you can't always choose what genre you're working in. So with Neobards, it's been like, okay, we've gone from like action horror multiplayer
Yep.
shooter. We did like cute uh, action RPG, and then there's like all right, a live game service hack and slash. Uh, so it's like, and then now it's like kind of traditional, uh, they're all action horror, single player, story heavy. It's like every single one is so different. So it's tough to carry knowledge from one project to another
Yep.
when the project is so different.
Mm. But I think, but to your point though, at the underlying at its core, and we will double click on this when we speak more about Silent Hill F and proper, is that you can see some of those strengths as you mentioned come out and resonate with the way the game has been made, which I find really incredibly fascinating. Um, I do think we could have spent tons of time talking about the drafting mechanics in the other game, but I do want to get to Silent Hill F. But before I do, I just love to get your thoughts in general, as a fan of horror games, in with how you see the genre, right? We've seen quite the explosion of the horror genre in recent times. We've got all the new Resident Evil games, of course. We had a Dead Space remake, and of course, there's always a resurgence of interest in Alien Isolation. And then on the indie side, you've got games like Signalis, World of Horror, Mouthwashing, and then, of course, you've got new multiplayer experiences like Phasmophobia, Repo, and Lethal Company. Love to hear your thoughts on the horror genre today, and also how you think Silent Hill F sort of fits in all of that.
Gotcha. So I think I see this on a lot of fan forums where everyone's like, there's that picture of the lady and she's like eating and there's like 6 pancakes kind of being like put in front of
Yep,
her.
yep, yep.
And I'm like, as a horror fan, I feel like that's kind of the state we're in right now. Kind of like
Amazing.
when Street
Yes.
Fighter 4 kind of brought back
Yep.
fighting games, just like fighting
Yes.
game.
Yes.
Or I think like when Castle Crashes got big, that like, wow, that was a long time ago.
Yep.
Like beat 'em ups,
Beat
boom,
'em
just
ups. Yep.
constant beat 'em ups. Yeah, just like
Yep.
just showed up. And I think we're in that phase of horror games right now.
Hmm.
Um, I think the genre is still niche compared to kind of other kind of major kind of like, just like the action games or it's kind of RPGs. Uh, it's kind of those things that everyone kind of pays attention to, but from just kind of, and this is not even from like sales of our own games, but just kind of looking like in general, the only one I've seen really hit consistently gigantic like mainstream numbers would
Yep.
be like Resident Evil
Of course.
series. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. Is again, there's the mainstream stuff tends to be more rounded. It tends to be made for a lot more people.
Yep.
Well, what I'm really excited about on the indie side, or just horror games in general, is that there are a lot of very sharp
Yep.
experiences
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
So things that are very specifically for a specific type of play or a very specific experience. So you have people. It's kind of you don't have to be like, well, there's not much to play, so I guess I'll play this one. It's
Yep.
kind of a horror game. Now it's more like I like this type of gameplay, this type
Yep.
of style.
Yep.
There's something for me,
Yep.
right there. And for me, and I hope I don't get shot for saying stuff like this on the stream, but it's like I think most of the interesting and brave kind of design decisions these days lie in indie games.
Yep.
And with indie horror games, so I try to play when like kind of new games come out, my attention goes to kind of like the double A and lower
Yep.
indie horror games first. So these are the things that I try to play first above everything else because for a lot of the mainstream stuff, it's built to be uh, less friction. It's built to kind of appeal to
Reach
a
a
larger
broader
audience.
audience. Yep.
Exactly. And then for a lot of these indie games, and I would talk a lot of the indie devs in Taiwan, and the advice I always tell them is like, it's like, man, I'm gonna tell you stuff I think, but don't listen to me, man. Just like you have an idea, you run with it. Like, don't try to make this for everybody. Try to make this for a very specific group.
Yep.
Make what you want. And we kind of took this philosophy into Silent Hill F also. We could talk about that in a bit. Um, But because of this, again, there's so many different things out there. We spent a lot of time playing Phasmophobia. Uh, just it has very very little to do with like research on what exactly we want to do with
Yep.
Silent Hill F, but it was it was a fun horror experience that was very different.
Yep.
Um, and again, it was something that you probably wouldn't have seen come out of a major publisher.
Yep.
Uh, and because of that, we're just happy to see all these new kind of like games come out, and again, just fill kind of these very specific niches for everybody. And there's some really, really, really good things out there. And I would say that the only real big difference between a lot of these indie games and kind of a lot of the big mainstream horror games, I don't think they're lacking in their story. They're not lacking
Yep.
in anything else. They're actually not lacking at all. It's the only big difference is just kind of fidelity.
Yep.
Um, so when people are like AAA or whatever, it's towards the end, it's just like this rock. I'm like making this rock and modeling it, and like like this opening this door, and like, oh, the paper on the door is kind of like see through, and then the
Yeah. Yeah.
lighting goes through. It's like maybe that costs more than your indie game. I'm not sure. Uh, but that's where a lot of the money goes towards, man. It's
Of
it's
course.
like
Of
the
course.
game ideas can be just as good, or even better.
Sure.
And a lot of this stuff, it's just the fidelity to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
And scale, of course. And you let's get right to the meat of it. I'd love to now spend the time talking about Silent Hill F in more detail. I'm very excited for this as someone who has played through the game, experienced multiple of the endings, and I'm sure others in the audience as well. Just sort of building on to what you mentioned, like the rounded and spiky experiences between like mainstream and indie sort of horror today. One of the things that stood out to me with Silent Hill F is while you could arguably say this is also a mainstream product in itself, there was a lot of spiky elements that made it stand out in the genre that I really was excited about. Primarily the narrative, right? I think the fact that you guys told a very deeply personal story about Japanese society, patriarchal led in the 60s, and the way in which it dealt with themes of like shame, femininity, beauty, and of course, it's really centered around a marriage, which is also like familiar to some people and not familiar to a lot of the audiences which you are going to reach. Um, can you share a little bit more about the thought process behind that and how you guys arrived at telling this particular story?
Gotcha. So I think we're gonna loop back to our scriptwriter, Ryukishi07
Yep.
sensei. So he's fairly well known in Japan, and I think more and more well known now in the West for kind of his works. So Higurashi,
Yep.
I Want to Cry, Umineko, uh, Tsukonia.
Yep.
Looking for more Tsukonia. If Ryukishi, if you're watching this, I need more Tsukonia right now. So, uh, and he has a very particular style of writing and a very particular kind of themes he kind of goes into. So basically, the script started off with him, and he wanted to kind of explore these kind of themes, whatnot, but also make it very Silent Hill.
Hmm.
Um, and again, as you know, everything's a team effort. So we spent a lot of time working with him, kind of helping polishing the script, and then trying to figure out how to put it into a game. Really, so he's known for visual novels, which is a very particular type of storytelling, and some things don't work as well in kind of like survival action horror
Yep.
that they do with this type of format. So it was all about kind of figuring out how do we take this very dense amount of information, because like it's like, okay, this could be a cutscene, but this one sentence is going to cost us like $200,000
Oh my
kind of deal.
gosh.
There are a lot of those. There are a lot of
Amazing.
those, which are very. It's again, it's these visual novels. You just have a picture there and you're done. But like in like a 3D game like this, it's like it might be easy to draw a particular thing, but then
Sure.
to model that and then do the physics on it and then have it do this, and you're like, it's like it's cool.
Yeah.
Not it's not that it doesn't work. It's like it'll take us like half a year to do this one sentence, kind of deal.
Right.
Um, but it was so part of it was like, sorry. One of the key pillars of the game when we set out to do the game is that since we had a named author, uh, we had to make absolutely sure that the game felt like it was one of his works. So that was a very, very big important part.
That's
So that's
awesome.
that's a key pillar. Another key pillar though was the game had to feel like a Silent Hill game.
Yep.
And which is very, I think, a very tough thing to take on after so many years absence in the space.
That's right.
So these things to combine were kind of like a big, like how we approach the story. And then because visual novels are known for, and his novels in particular are known for kind of this looping narrative. So we're like, okay, this is something we want to work with. Originally, it wasn't a looping narrative. It was more traditional, where it's like you get to one point, and
Yep.
then based on the actions, just splits off. But we want to kind of do it like, kind of give more value to the player.
Yep.
In that, like every time you play, the gameplay changes. So based on what you know as a player, your skills as a player, but then also the items you get, and the challenges you face, it's different ways to approach the same challenge. And then also with the story, it's kind of like the onion. The first time you learn some stuff, but the more you play, the more you peel away, and not just changing cutscenes, changing some dialogue, but new events in the game, the way things are structured, new notes. It's kind of like we have all this very dense information. So how to organize it so that you slowly peel things away. And then for the thematics themselves, as you pointed upon, I think it's very interesting to me, or I think it's written very, very well, where it's like, yes, it's from a very kind of 1960s Japanese perspective, but the theming, and from a female perspective, but the theming is, I think, something that a lot of people can relate to. And the big thing for me is that not just horror games, but stories in general have to resonate in order to resonate with someone, they have to kind of feel like it's connected to a part of their own life experience.
Right.
If I just, like, oh, I'm just gonna write a random story, and you're like, oh, okay, so what does that have to do with me? People don't resonate with it, which is like why I think lately, like isekai has been really, really big on the rise because
Yes.
of kind of societal pressures. People are
Yep.
like, I just want to escape, and like I want to be the hero. I want to be the main character. I want to be the hero. And a lot of the isekais you see this.
It's a power
I won't say
fantasy.
they're yeah, it's not. I won't say it's like exactly self-insert,
Yep.
but you see a lot of that where they always start in the real world,
Yep.
or where the MC has like a really shitty kind of life
Day job. Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you see this, you're like, you can kind of tell, like, okay, they're doing this. It's a big part to kind of relate to the characters, because it could have just been like a, what do you call it? Like a, like you just I just start a fantasy story
Yep.
kind of deal. Which by the way, the other day I realized that I was sleeping, and then I suddenly woke up and I realized that Army of Darkness was an isekai, and I didn't know.
Oh
I
my
didn't think about
god.
this for like 20 years. Yeah,
Wait.
and so
I
is Wizard of Oz when you think about it.
Wizard of Oz. Yes. I think the Wizard of Oz was definitely clear to me. Oh my god. Army of Darkness. I didn't even think about it in that way. Holy smokes.
I know, right? I was like, wait a sec. I was just like sleeping. I was like, wait, and I couldn't sleep for like the next 2 hours.
Also, just a great indicator, Al, that you just have the most whack waking up moments and ideas that are just coming to you in the middle of the night.
I don't know. I don't. It's a curse. I think it's a
Yeah.
curse sometimes, because the next day you're like, you're going to work and you're like, and they're like, yo, man, are you okay? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I couldn't sleep well last night. He's like, why? He's like, because I realized Army of Darkness was isekai, and people just look at you like you're crazy. You're like,
So what? It's like that's what's keeping you up at night. I mean, in any case, like there's a ton to unpack with everything you just shared about, the collaboration with Ryuki Shii to the multiple endings. And I just really want to like dig into a few of these things. The multiple endings thing is one of those things that I consider a very spiky part of the game, which is really, really amazing because it draws you in. I feel like with most Silent Hill games, it's no different with respect to the fact that it has multiple endings. But the way that you guys have set it up is that you've obviously made the first route mandatory, right? And even if players try as hard as they might to engineer a different ending, you always get the first one. How did you guys see that ending's importance, and like how worried were you guys if players were not going to continue or experience the other endings that the games had to offer, or other parts of the ways the stories were going to unfold?
Gotcha. I think this is a question that I see a lot on uh, forums and whatnot.
Of
So
course, yeah.
yeah, so this is part of the being, I think, taking that indie spirit
Yep.
and then moving it into kind of this realm. Uh, for us, the story, because it is in many layers, and we structured it in many layers, without a kind of a base there, everything kind of falls apart. So if the first ending, if you could have gotten any ending first,
Yep.
then I think the entire structure
Mm,
of the story would fall apart. But by kind of setting up the this kind of like what the hell kind of first ending, it allows us to do for each of the loops. It allows us to give you specific information
yep.
and specific kind of like uh lore for the characters
Yep.
uh as you keep going. But if you could get all of that from the very beginning, the entire structure would fall apart. And I know it's a bit of a it was a huge risk
Absolutely.
for us narratively, and this is something we discussed with Konami and Yukishi
Yep.
a lot. Which is like, okay, I think players may be upset with this,
Hmm.
um, but by doing this kind of thing, it gives us a chance to create a narrative structure that is unique, not just only to Silent Hill. It still feels like Silent Hill because of the multiple endings, but it's unique to gaming as a genre.
Yes.
And this type of medium where it's like, I guess I could do this in the visual novel, but it wouldn't feel quite the same because everything is text. Whereas now it's like you have a lot more kind of interactivity
Yep.
with what you see. Um, and with linear media, like kind of film, TV, books, it's not something that it was be readily available to do. So it's like this is our chance to do something really unique in this medium,
Yep.
and they took the risk on us. So
Amazing.
Konami was like, okay, let's try this. And we spent but because we knew that the first ending was mandatory, we spent the most amount of time trying to make sure that even though we knew some players would be kind of upset, we tried to make the experience most interesting for them.
Yep.
So like the Shimoku boss at the end, I think we spent the most amount of time on just to kind of
Of
make it
course.
that entire sequence kind of like really interesting for the players. Uh, so that was probably the biggest thing. And then another thing here is like, again, you see on forums, because how do I say this? So I spy a lot. I spy a
No,
lot
no.
on all sorts of
We're,
forums.
we're, you're chronically online. We're chronically online. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but it's always like different. So now that I'm gonna say this, and if someone sees this interview, they're gonna start pointing. They're gonna do the Spider-Man and start pointing fingers. But I'm in pretty much every single horror or
Amazing.
Silent Hill, basically every single title we
Community.
work on.
Yep.
I'm in that community, but I use a different name in every single community. Uh,
I love that.
so it can't be it can't be well, it's
Yeah.
tough to trace, and I don't talk too much, but I ask very
Pointed
pointed
questions. Yep.
questions when I do to kind of get a response, and it's
Sure.
just to kind of see what different communities are. So like the horror, if you ask the same question in just a general horror gaming community, and then just the general gaming community, and then a fan like a specific series fan community, you get very different
Absolutely.
responses.
Absolutely.
So, and this is like also information we take into kind of development, because it's one of those things where it's like, as developers, we are fans of Silent Hill ourselves. We're fans of the stuff we work on, but there's so many different fans. There's so many different types of people who enjoy this kind of stuff.
In different
It's
ways as well. Yeah.
in different ways, exactly. So it's kind of like, well, yes, we're kind of making this for ourselves, but really we're making this for the community. But what community? A big part of this is that it's been so long since Silent Hill has been
That's right.
out in the public sphere. So it's like, all right, we can count on our like kind of the old school fans to be like, oh yeah, I'll take a look at this if it piques my interest enough. But at the same time, we're like, well, you want to grow the community, you want to bring more people in, so you look towards like horror game, like just horror gaming fans in general, or fans of the setting and whatnot. And you go over there and you're like, okay, can we make something that at least vibes with a big chunk of, you're not going to get everybody. It's impossible to make everybody happy, but
Yep.
something that vibes with a big chunk of these players,
Yep.
bring some people in, um, and then try your best to make everybody happy. You can't
Yep.
for everybody, but that's kind of a big thing we really strive for there.
That's really, really cool. And to your point, if you spend enough time on the internet, especially around the conversation with Silent Hill, you just see some really incredible like sort of responses from the fans. Like the fan art for the various characters. People really gravitated to Fox Mask. The way they've sort of formulated the relationships between all the main characters is so like beautiful, in a way where it like sort of extends the story in ways of their own. So I really love those parts of the community around Silent Hill. It's been one of my greatest joys after playing the game is just participating in that community. Speaking of which, like as you mentioned, you're in all the forums. You spend a lot of time like figuring out and understanding sort of what have been players' sentiments to the game and what people have been thinking about it. You know, what has been the most surprising take for you from the community that you've seen online?
Hmm. I think there's a lot. I think the most shocking one to me is how. Let's go back to the first ending. The first ending thing, we actually thought the first ending was the most Silent Hill
Right.
like,
Yep.
and then in in kind of traditional fashion, none of the endings were called anything in development because we want to keep it as neutral as possible. It was like ending
Sure.
A, ending B,
Yep.
ending C, ending D, except for UFO ending. And UFO ending is just like, okay, that's no one's gonna misconstrue that one.
Yep. Yep.
uh, because and I think previous developers on previous titles said this before, is that it's up to the player to kind of choose the
Yes.
interpretation
Yep.
for themselves. And then a lot of people are like, well, our last ending, the hardest ending, is called, they're calling it's the true
True
ending. I'm
ending.
like,
Yep. The true ending.
I was like, we have never called that before in development ever.
Yep.
It was simply known to us as ending D. And the only reason it was locked behind all the other endings, or it was locked behind, at least it was gated behind two endings. The only reason it was done like that is because without knowledge of the stuff that happens in the first loop and then the second loop, that would make no sense. Because if you got that ending at the very beginning, you'd be like,
What is going
what
on?
is this? Well, what is the significance
Yes.
of this? But with either the significance of the second or third ending, so the two endings you get after the fixed one, that is enough information to let you understand what's going on in that one. But everyone's like, this is the true ending. We're like, oh, that's interesting. So this is what you guys see as the correct path for Hinako. And again, it's for, we see people like, oh, we like this ending, we like this ending. But
Yep.
that's always been the point in traditional Silent Hill fashion,
Right.
is like,
Yep.
it's up
Yep.
to you to determine which ending resonates with you the most. Because again, a big deal about the theming is that even though, again, 1960s Japan,
Yep.
female, the thematics are something that a lot of people can really resonate with. I think the very first cutscene, all of Asia was like, "Oh, this is making me a little bit uncomfortable." I was like,
Yes.
I've been here," and then it's just not about marriage; it's about something else,
Yes.
But that situation, that tension, that kind of trauma is like, I remember the first time, like when we record the cutscene and I finished, I was like, I don't like this. This
It's
makes me feel
heavy.
real bad.
It's heavy,
Yeah.
but
And
it
then I
was
think
really well done. Yeah.
a lot of in the West, I think, also can relate to that.
Mm.
So yeah, that's probably the endings, and then kind of like that was like a big surprise for us. The other one is internally, I guess because we all knew the story right off the bat and how things would play, and we got to see a lot of extra information before everyone else.
Sure.
Uh, when that scene where Fox Mask shows up in the shrine where like Hinako opens like bangs
Yeah.
open the door and he falls in his
Yeah.
arms.
Yeah.
He's like, "Good morning."
I know.
Yeah.
Everyone
The
loves that guy in that scene.
Oh my god, yeah, it's the first time our so we have actually a lot of female developers on the team,
Sure.
which is I think a great thing,
Absolutely.
because it gives us a lot of perspective. Uh, our level lead is a lady called Kelly, and then I remember we were watching the cutscene we put into the game, and the first time she saw that, I was just standing by her. She just like turned to me, and she's like, she's like, this guy is so creepy. I hate her.
Yeah, yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, no, I don't like the vibe from this guy. And then I remember our first journalist session in Tokyo.
Yeah.
There's a female journalist,
Yep.
and basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but like during our Q&A session, she's just like, "Yeah, about Fox Mask." He's like, "Oh no, he's hot."
I know. I
Like,
know.
why is this man so sexy?
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh no, he's an Ikemen, and it's like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's and then just when the game came out, just watching all the responses in general,
Yeah.
uh, internally, I'm gonna say that he has his fans in the dev team, but I think I'll say like 90% of the dev team is just kind of like, this guy's a creep. And then everyone else outside is like, every single kind of viewer is just like, you get the Fox Mask, they're like, you get to that scene, they're like,
I know. And
and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, huh.
I think that just a testament to both Rikishi's writing, but also to your team's work on the portrayal of Fox Mask, right? Where he's clearly a walking red flag from the very get go, but he's also like trouble in that in that way that most people are like really into. And so like that I found that incredibly fascinating, not just about Fox Mask, but also everyone's most love to hate character Rinko, right? She obviously, if you only ever play the first ending, you only ever see that she's this way of this jealous character. And I just love to be able to double click into that, like in your mind of all the characters that are in the game, who was the hardest, the most important one to get right, both in the narrative and their place in the game and how they're depicted through the performance.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think every character has their own place
Right.
in the story. And then our writer Yukichi-san says something that always stuck with me, which is that Hinako is the main character, and you're going through her personal
Journey. Yep.
journey
Yep.
in this game, but that doesn't mean the other characters aren't going through their own journeys at the same time. Because they're when you think about it, they're all going through it, especially like
Yep.
She was
Shoes.
super going through it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just, but we're just not seeing things from their perspective. We're seeing
Right.
things from Hinako's perspective. So that was something we kept in mind a lot when doing the recording, when giving kind of directions for the actors. And again, for the actors, they absolutely knocked it out of the park, and not just
Incredible.
our mocap actors and our Japanese voice actors, but our US voice actors. Like they got to read, when they're reading the script, there was a lot of questions on how they should approach these kind of things. And I think everyone, again, games aren't made by small group of people, one person. It's a big contribution, and it's because of kind of the really good direction and then the acting.
Yep.
On all fronts, that we're able to get these really subtle kind of information and kind of really subtle kind of performances into the game. I think that really elevate everything.
No, it
For
was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really really thankful for everyone here involved, because without any of this, it's like when you see the game in the very beginning, when you have the game and you're still building it, and none of this stuff is in there. and you're like, and all the cutscenes are just kind of blockouts with like basic text there. And as soon as you get the mocap in there, you're like, oh, and then you get the voice acting there. You're like, oh, it's like every step it just like adds more and more and more to it.
No, I found it, the performances were super magnetic, and obviously the actress who plays Hinako Shimizu, Konatsu Kato, in her first ever video game role, if I'm not mistaken, sort of went on record, and this obviously went viral and obviously helped the game's case, saying like she felt her own sanity like sort of slipping as she was performing the role. What was like that? Well, you mentioned a little bit about like the questions and like the script reading process. But can you go into a little more detail about like sort of the preparation work for her and the other actors, in sort of how you was able to sort of bring out all these character heavy performances?
So a big thing again, this is a testament to our actors,
Yeah.
but like a big thing is we have to record all this stuff while the game is in development. So many times you don't have the the actual set, and to them, because they're traditionally stage actors, um, they are not used to everything's like basically green screen. You probably there's a video that came out I think yesterday, behind the scenes, and you can kind of see some behind the scenes footage of
Nice.
the mocap sessions, but it's just an empty room, you know. Um, and then you just have to pretend all that kind of stuff. You might have some reference materials on the side, which is like some pictures of what this area is supposed to look like. Uh, but everything is they're basically running off of concept art and then the script and then some directions. So again, a huge testament to those guys, uh, really nailing kind of the vibes. Um, besides kind of the script and then us being on site and then kind of helping kind of like push it forward, uh, is that for each of the sets though, every single set we at least built the 3D space for them. And then on the set, you can kind of see weird things kind of laying here and there, and it's all kind of references to what this should be. This should be kind of the wall. This should be like a cupboard. This should be a whatever.
Yep.
Um, and that kind of helped them visualize a lot of what was going on. And I think again, we did script readings and kind of asking them like, okay, so this is what's happening here. This is the point of this. So it's like behind this particular scene is these reasons, and we let them know kind of like not just on the first loop,
Hmm.
but like what does this thing mean on a very high level, which is like, okay, so then when the player sees this, they're probably gonna think this.
Yep.
But really what's going on is
This.
this down here. So I think I kind of glossed over the Rinko question a little while ago, but Rinko is like a really good example of
Oh
this,
yeah.
where it's like uh in the first loop, you're kind of like, bro, what is your problem?
Yeah.
It's like, what
Absolutely.
is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah. That
It's
has
like,
been the reaction. Yeah.
yeah, it's like this. I was like, dude, this girl is nah, man.
Yeah.
But then the more you play and the more you kind of unravel, you get kind of like you kind of understand what she's going through also, and kind of her story.
Hmm.
Uh, and I see a lot of comments of this online is like, you still see people with like, oh, they start feeling for you. Like, I
I
get,
get
you're
it.
like,
Yeah.
I get it. I get what's going on. And again, looping back, it's kind of like that. Not everyone's going to get it, quite honestly, because you need that kind of empathetic link. But some people who've met people like this in their life, or who've kind of had experience with this kind of challenge in their own lives or in lives of people close to them, they'll be like, "Oh, I understand what is going on with her." I was like, maybe what she's doing isn't right
Yep.
at the very end, but I I I empathize. And I think that is the strongest point of kind of the narrative, and that we really wanted to make sure that this came out because it's very subtle stuff
Yes.
sometimes. And then this is something that the actors also sometimes let them know. And so for some, we really want to obfuscate things. We didn't let them know,
Yep.
but it was kind of a case on case basis on during kind of the acting performance.
No, I absolutely love that. All the actors were so standout in their roles, and they were so relatable in their experiences, as you say. Like, um, this is a story that sort of meant to impact people at a personal level, like, oh, I've experienced something like this, or I know people like this, or this is something that I understand at a sort of societal and like a human level, which makes the story so incredible. One of the other standout things, obviously, about Silent Hill F that I have to talk about is obviously combat, right? Walk me through your thought process on why we've got weapon durabilities, we got dodge frames, we got counter windows, to a game that is meant to be a core survival horror gameplay experience, and then of course Hinako's Fox Arm, which totally changes the dynamics of the combat. I just love to hear you tell us more about how all that fits together.
I knew this question was coming. This question would be coming sooner or later. I was like, oh, June is giving me like the easy
I'm teeing
question
you
so
up.
far. I
I'm
was
teeing
like,
you up. Yeah.
all right. So, when Konami first came to us, Okamoto-san reached out and we're helping with the pitch on the game. We knew about his kind of like plans for the series at that
Okay.
point in time. So I think when we first got the kind of the materials, it was kind of like, okay, so we're planning to do a remake of 2. We knew about
Yep.
that. And then we knew what we were gonna. We're like, okay, there's Silent Hill F. What is it? We're like, we're not sure. But it's set in. It's at that point. It was not even 1960. It was like, okay, it's Japanese themed.
Okay.
And then Yukishi's the writer. We have 2 pieces of concept art, and we have the name of the concept artist, and then we have a script.
Okay.
First draft script. That was it. And then we knew about Townfall. We knew about Ascension.
Yep.
We knew about Short Message. So all this stuff was known to us at the very beginning, and we kind of knew what each of the games were, what the other games were supposed to be at that point in time, or at least the direction they were heading in. So for us, because we're like, wow, this guy is serious about like bringing back Silent Hill.
I love
and
that.
I think part of that, yeah, that the strategy and enthusiasm was actually what got us on board. And early on, too, he's like, okay, he's not just kind of like, it's not just like, oh yeah, we're gonna try to do a Silent Hill,
Yep.
and then here's a game, and then they go around with it. We're like, damn. I was like, going in hard. It's like, I was like, all right, let's do, like, okay, let's do our best. Let's see what we can do here. So a big thing at that point in time is like not just how we're going to differentiate ourselves from all the horror games on the market, but how we're going to differentiate ourselves in this massive lineup of Silent Hill titles
Right.
coming out. And something for me that I always kind of like to pay a lot of attention to is I don't like looking at trends per se, mainly because they're like, oh man, extraction shooters are really hot right now. Let's
They
make an
are.
extraction shooter. And you see this with like MMOs in the past, and then like MOBAs. Like, oh, MOBAs are hot. Let's make a MOBA, and then suddenly the market has 10,000 MOBAs.
That's right.
And some people are gonna work faster than you. Some people are gonna work slower than you. But you can have a period of time where there's going to be like tons of games of around the same type, and it's going to be hard for you to differentiate yourself from everything else that's out there. Not to say you shouldn't do this, it's just it's going to be harder because a lot of people are thinking the same thing.
Yep.
So for me, another thing is it's how to put it. The things that people like sometimes are circular in the fact that if a type of genre or type of gameplay is really popular in the past, but there's been no games of it for a while, that doesn't mean it's bad. I think this means that there's been too much of the same thing, and it just needs some time to cool down before coming back. So beat 'em ups are really good example.
Yep.
For me. You see this like in the 90s, there's like a really big surge of like beat 'em ups, and then something went quiet for a while, and then in the mid 2000s, you get this surge again, and then it went quiet for a while. And I think a few years ago, as you can see, it just boom, it started again. I think and then as you can see at this point in time, we're in the middle of a beat 'em up kind of like
Boom.
golden era, also
Yep.
where it's like boom, it's
Yes.
like nonstop beat 'em
Yes. Yep.
up. And it's not that, again, it's not that in the middle, it's not that like suddenly beat 'em ups got unpopular. It's just like, well, it's been like I've had like a billion of these. I don't want to try something different. It's not it's bad. It's like, oh man, I could use something. I've been eating the same
One
meal,
thing, yeah,
yeah, for like years. Maybe I'll try something different. And then
sure,
a few years later, you're like, you know what? I really miss, eating this kind of food. So you go back, you know. So that's actually a big thing for me when I look at taking games in specific directions.
sure,
Is like, oh, is there something that was popular in the past that really didn't, that just kind of fizzled out because there's too many of it, or uh, was just again just oversaturation. Uh, so kind of looking at that and then thinking about kind of the action elements. We're like, okay, so we know that Silent Hill 2 remake is going to be this type, very traditional, kind of grounded Silent Hill game, knowing what the other games were, uh, seeing the trends of what players like. As you know, there's some franchises out there which are very uh, kind of survival horror, but they also have like action counterparts to them, and the action counterparts actually resonated really well with like kind of a large population that maybe weren't pure kind of survival horror fans,
sure.
but it was able to grab a lot of new people in.
Hmm.
And because we're at the kind of the tip of this kind of Silent Hill uh, revival, we're like, okay, how can we do this? How can we try to bring new new people in? And this is something that Okamoto-san, producer on Konami's side, was very cognizant about, and is one of his main things he was thinking about. It's like, okay, I can't just rely on the old fans. We need to bring in new guys. So it's kind of looking at more and more what kind of younger gamers or gamers this generation would be into, and then trying to figure out how much of an action scale we should put on. So actually, we had this thing where it's like we had all the games lined up, and on the scale of like walking simulator, so something like short message
Yep,
would be that, and then like pure action game over here. And it's kind of like ranking each of the Silent Hill games in each of the time periods and ranking a lot of other kind of horror games where they stood on that scale. Um, and then kind of like how people respond to them. And then kind of choosing, okay, at the very beginning, we want to play Silent Hill around here, kind of deal in terms of action. And because we already had the script, uh, we knew that, as you know, like with the fox arm, the and the way kind of Hinako's uh, emotions and kind of her basically her journey, her arc
mental journey.
through the
Yes,
story.
yep,
It's, I would say, the emotions get more and more heated. She's very angry
yep,
at the end, at kind of the situation that's thrown at her. So it was a perfect arc to kind of start off more survival horror and then slowly ramp up into action horror
yep,
more and more. Uh, and because of the script, we knew about the fox arm from the very beginning. We're like, okay, so this is the perfect time to kind of ramp this up.
amazing.
So the script had a very large impact on that kind of thing too. And because of that, we knew that we had the other worlds, and then the fog world. Well, it's a little bit different in our game. As
Yes,
you'll notice, like your inventory for the most part, besides kind of the omamori and some key things, your inventory doesn't
doesn't carry over.
doesn't uh, doesn't carry over. And that was meant to be like a really big hint for the players. They're like, what? And then
Yep,
we left a lot of these little hints where it's like you might have been able to figure out during your first run of what exactly was going on based on this kind of stuff, but because of that, the enemies were different on both sides. Kind of the challenges you faced, the gameplay was different for pacing reasons also.
hmm,
Um, but because of the nature of Hinako and then the gameplay we wanted to push, we decided to go melee only
mm,
at that point of time. Plus, it's one of the things where it's like, well, what do we do for the fox arm? Uh, because towards the end, you fight enemies from both sides. Where like, if we design an enemy with ranged in mind, and then you suddenly get this, it's like we have to build a lot of stuff to kind of accommodate both of them.
yep,
So that was a conscious decision. Okay, we're going to focus on melee. And another big reason is that we see gunplay keeps getting explored in survival horror, action horror. It's
Yes.
always guns.
Yep.
And they get more and more complicated. Take your gun, you mod it, you switch it up. There's different like attachments, like the gunplay gets more and more complicated. But melee has always been kind of like, oh, this is your fallback. You
Yeah.
know, they have melee,
Yeah.
but it's never like this is your primary thing.
Yep.
So we're like, okay, let's take that. So this is something that just horror gamers understand melee combat, but not at this level.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, instead of pushing the range, we're gonna take melee and push that direction. But because ranged combat is so well done, it's been refined to such a high degree
Hmm.
in horror games. We wanted to make sure to bring that feeling into
Melee
melee.
combat.
And yeah, so the thing about horror gaming combat is like versus like action shooter is just pacing. It's like it's a gun, it's a pistol in both of them, it's a machine gun in both of them. So
Yep.
what's the difference? It's kind of the pacing. It's like when you shoot a zombie, you hit them, it's like there's like no impact.
Yep.
It feels weak. It takes so many bullets to take down an enemy. It's slow. It's very, very slow. Whereas like an action kind of shooter, you just like go around the corner, you're like
Yeah,
bam, and like
you
you
mow them
like your
down.
guy's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to take that kind of pacing and move it to melee. So some ways we did it is, I think you mentioned like durability is one thing where resources are always a big thing in horror games. I think it's the key thing in horror games is resource control or knowing how little you have in relation to the challenges you face. So for our weapons, they have durability because we need it so that you have a limit to what you can attack
Yep.
as your primary weapon. And really, you can just think about it as bullets or ammo.
Sure.
And the big thing is in a traditional kind of ranged horror game, if I see a zombie and I have 500 bullets in my clip, then I'm not gonna be like, oh well, I'm just gonna shoot you. It doesn't matter, like it's doesn't matter if it takes 10 bullets. I've got 500 in there. But if you have like 8 bullets in your clip and the zombie takes like maybe 10 to take it down, less if you're lucky, then you're gonna be like, yeah, nah, maybe I'll shoot you in the knee and then keep going. Or I'm just gonna try my best to not
Yeah.
attack
Dodge
you.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of resource starvation applies to everything from kind of your health to kind of your items
Yep.
to everything to sanity for us. Um, in terms of sanity, actually talk about focus. We needed something that again would slow down the pacing of the game in traditional kind of gun-based combat. You see if I just raise my gun and I start shooting an enemy,
Yeah.
the crosshair is like huge and
And
it's
it
like
reduces over time.
it's exactly. And the whole point, I mean, you're aiming for the head, or a specific body part, which is tough for us to do. We actually tested that, and it was just too complicated. Um, but it's kind of like the longer you wait, the more accurate it gets, and like your critical might be higher, or you might do more
Yep.
damage, et cetera, more. So that's something we did with our focus, where it's like, okay, we want you to kind of wait. We need something to make you wait. But because we couldn't really have it so that you aim at specific body parts, because with melee, it's very hard to do that
Yep.
without getting overly complex, I think. We added kind of the counters in there where it's like, as I'm waiting, it's kind of, you can think about it as a combat jump scare
Right.
almost, where you're like, I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're waiting for it. But then if like they do another move at you
Yeah.
or they do something else, you're like, oh, and you gotta get out of the way.
Yep.
So that was kind of a way to kind of slow down the pace. So it's not just like I see a guy, I run over there and I just bonk him, kind of deal.
Yep.
So that was meant to kind of really slow that down. And then because these games are always built with like for me, like all combat in general for everything comes down to just rock, paper, scissors. Something some kind of thing is better than A is better than B, but it loses to C.
Yep.
B is better than C, but and it's just that. And then that seems very, very basic. So like a fighting game is like, strike, will be blocked. Block beats strike,
Yep.
but strike loses to grab.
Yep.
Grab loses to strike. But then it gets really complicated. It's like then the bigger the game gets, the more complicated it gets.
Yep.
So based on that kind of thing, though, there's always something you need, which is I call a master key, which is like, well, I don't care anymore. Like I don't want to play this game. I just like I'm tired. It's tough.
Yep.
So in other games, it's like a rocket launcher,
Sure.
for instance, or like a grenade, where it's like, F it.
Yep.
I'm done here. I don't want to play it. It's because combat are puzzles. Combat's basically a puzzle
Yep.
also.
Yep.
But sometimes you need to give them like a way to skip it. So that's where kind of like our focus text came in. We're like, okay, we want to give players a way to be like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm going to use some of my resource to get through it. And then, so I don't have to think about this entire triangle.
Yep.
Or the strategy. But I think the difference between ours and other kind of traditional games is like the impact of a rocket launcher is really big and it's very visual. You can feel it. But just like a really strong strike that stuns is not as strong as a visual. And unfortunately, that's something that we had to tie back to kind of our main character. Also, because you can't give her crazy firepower.
Yep. Yep.
In her fox arm form, she has that. She basically has.
She's OP.
Yeah, she goes,
Yeah.
and she's like hulking out.
Yeah.
And that's the equivalent. That works because it's very visually kind of like telling like what's going on there. But for Fog Hinako, she doesn't have that as much. So this is something we had to put in there. But again, I think it works out for the story and for pacing. It's also very interesting because when you're transitioning between both sides, you play very differently.
No, I'm a big fan of the combat. Like I think you guys took obviously a degree of risk in sort of implementing something to this extent, but with respect to the, as you say, the focus, the ways in which you need to think about dodging, there was a lot of like decision making, like minutia at every moment as you're like interacting with the enemies, the distance from them. For me, the fox arm wasn't the end all be all weapon though. It was the kitchen knife. Just saying, it is the most OP weapon for those who are well aware. When you pick that thing up, it looks so diminutive, but actually it did so much damage. I just as a sort of follow on question, because I really do love the combat, and there were even comments online to say that to some degree it was a bit Souls like, and I think that really really resonated with me. That you guys also decided that there were moments in the game where people were like sort of stuck in a sort of arena style combat encounter, whereas with some of the other survival horror games, the player has a little more agency to decide whether or not they can avoid an encounter, but you guys also made a conscious decision that you wanted the player to fight and that there were moments where they had to engage with the combat. Can you walk us through a little bit about your thought process on that?
Sure. I think for the combat in general, that this is a good one of the things where it's like we want to go in a very sharp direction, and we know we understand it's not for everybody. And it's a bit of a departure from kind of traditional
survival
Silent Hill or just survival horror.
Absolutely.
In general. But again, for us, it was an interesting choice that we felt had a lot of legs. And then the comments I see online are either like, I love it, or it's like, this is ass, But to be very honest, I think that makes me happy.
Yep.
Because it's like if you just get like a oh it's all right. It's like they're like, well, how's the combat? It's like, oh, it's survival horror combat. I was like, oh yeah, it's Silent Hill combat. You're like,
it's like the experiences like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But some people really engaged with it. But because of that, you're gonna have a lot of people that don't. But hopefully it's more on this side. I hope it seems like it. But again, we understand that it might not be for everybody, but if you make something that is for everybody, you just get something very rounded.
Yep.
And that was not our goal. We set off. So we knew we were going to have this It's still not pleasant to see, but it was something that was we're very aware of in the very beginning. And then going on to the second question was about the
Oh, generally around like like the decision to have it be like arena encounters and just
yes.
and the combat encounters that the player will come across.
So that on the script, we actually based the most of our encounters on what happens in the
Oh
script
wow,
in
okay,
terms
that's
of
amazing.
tension for Hinako. So what in pre-productions, I think this is very important for games like this, is we actually didn't end up, and I think this is probably one of the things we learned from being external developers is that uh, there's no time to really mess up stuff. So we spent a lot of time in pre-production, a lot of extra time, kind of like taking the script, breaking it down, and then doing a rundown of the entire game in just kind of like a step by step. Like this
Amazing.
is what this
Yeah,
area, this is what Hinako's doing, this is what the player should feel, this is what Hinako should feel. And that's a big difference because
of course.
based on player skill and familiarity, something that might be really tense and scary for one type of player just be a child's play
Yep.
for someone else. But what we can control is that the emotions and the actions of the character, what they're going through at the point in time. So this may not match. This might be different for everybody, but at least for the character, it might be the same. So a lot of the force combat arenas, especially towards the last half of the game, is, as you know, Hinako is going towards the emotion is
Going
going
through it.
more
Yeah.
towards anger.
Yep.
Yeah, it's as you remember in the later where she's going down the hill.
Yes.
Uh, and I think I really like that hill because we use that multiple times in the game.
Yes. You go up the hill too.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it's a testament to like kind of show people like what a little bit of change, like same landscape, but a change in kind of the way you present the
Yep.
atmosphere
Yep.
will really do for the same area. Um, but she's angry at that point in time. You know, at that point, she came out, she saw this Remuku
Yeah.
with her parents, and she's chasing. She's angry. So for us in the script, she was just full on rage. For the character, it's just like killing everything in her way,
Yeah.
just like get out. Like she's
Get out of the way.
chasing.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, she's chasing Shrimuku down the hill. She's like, just get out of my way. And every time she gets blocked by something, she's frustrated. And the
Yes.
script is like, she's very frustrated at this
Wow.
point in time. So we actually tried to be like, there's a long discussion. It's like, all right, so how do we show this frustration in an interactive way besides being like her being like, I'm very frustrated, you know, or just her yelling all the time. We wanted to kind of bring that frustration to the player, and that's where and then with the monster with kind of like the spawn where she's like spawning like all the other monsters represents very clearly represents something that Minako's afraid of.
Yep.
Um, so we try to bring that frustration there by locking players in this because they're trying to get to the bottom of this hole. They're
Yeah.
constantly being stopped by these
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Uh, and I think it was a bit towards the end, in during development, tying it with the script, it seemed like a good idea. When we
Mhm.
played it, like everybody who played it were like, I'm kind of frustrated by this
I
area.
was.
Like,
I
okay,
was. I mean,
yeah,
this is the reason why I brought it
yeah,
up, simply because. But I think now that you've explained it, and in a way where you are truly trying to elicit that same expression or emotion in the player as what Hinako's going through, I think you nailed it. I mean, like it was a really frustrating encounter, but there was always that forward momentum. Like I need to get to the next part of that encounter, and constantly. And so, I felt very strongly that you sort of nailed that frustration.
I think talking to you, I think we actually failed on this part
Mm.
because the fact that I had to
Explain it.
explain this to you for you to be like, oh, I get it, because it's at that point it wasn't for you. It probably wasn't that fun.
Yeah.
Uh, and then what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a very emotional response that ties into the story.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, and fun can be a lot of things,
Sure.
but if you're not having fun in this area, I don't think we've succeeded as much. No matter
Interesting.
how hard we tried to be true
Okay.
to source material. Um, And again, this is feedback we see from a lot of players where maybe every 20 comments, I see one which is like, oh, you know what? Exactly what I just says, like, oh, Hinako is very frustrated at this point in time. So I feel like the developer's trying to make you frustrated also. But again, frustration, what the character in the game is feeling and what the player feels doesn't always match up.
Mhm,
And some
mhm.
people be like, okay, I vibe with this, I get it. But other people are like, man, I gotta fight this thing again, you know?
Yep, yep.
S- So in and this is something that we are working on
Okay.
right now to work to address. So we understand that this this game is meant to be played in multiple loops. And then most of the feedback, I think that was negative for the combat stems from these forced arenas. Because for the most part, besides the bosses, you can kind of just run through everything in kind of
Right.
traditional survival horror fashion if you want to, but except for these things. So even though we were trying to elicit a very particular response here, without not enough people got it without explanation
Yep.
that it means that, quite frankly, it was not the intended consequence.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we're going to take a look at to see what we can do with it. And
That's interesting.
I think this is what the difference here is. I feel like for us, I see myself and our team here as we're designers. So
Yep.
this is something like an old teacher of mine told me back from university, and it stuck with me, which is a designer, you make something and the artist shows someone. The artist goes, well, what do you think?
Mhm.
And then the audience is like, oh, that's cool. I love these things, but I don't like these three things over here.
Sure.
And the artist will be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't ask for your opinion. This is my art, you know. And then a designer is we are building something. We're still creatives, but we're building something for with a very particular kind of like a audience, a very particular kind
Sure.
of response we're looking for. So the designer will make something
Yep.
and they'll show their audience and they'll be like, well, what do you think? And the audience will be like, oh yeah, that's super cool. But all these things over here are really annoying to me. And then the designer, what they should be doing is like, well, okay, that's cool. What did you like about this?
Mhm, mhm.
Why did you like it so much?
Mhm.
Or what about these three things? Like,
Yep.
what didn't you like about it? It's like, well, it's because of these reasons. Oh, you didn't get it?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let me take a look. How about now? How do you
Mm.
feel now? So I think that's for us as creators. Uh, and then I'm not saying bend the knee to every
Yep.
single
Yep.
piece of criticism that comes up, but I think you have to, when you get criticism like this, it's more like, well, what was the original intent?
Yep.
And did we hit that intent?
Mhm.
And then make your decision from there.
And you know what, like, and by the way, this is why I love having this conversation with you, and that I'm so blessed that we could do this, to really, like, get to the heart of this sort of stuff, because like, with respect to video games and just general, there is that conversation between authorship as well as, a commercial product, right? That's there for the audience's benefit, right? So, like, the ultimate place that you usually end up is somewhere in between, right? It's benefits the creators of the product, but also the end experience that the players have. And as we discuss, where you are on that spectrum, with whether it's the horror genre or non-horror or any other genre, you get the rounded experience and you get the spiky one. And sometimes, the closer you skew to the indie side, there is that sort of freedom to express yourself, right? It's more of like, this is what I want to put out in the world in this way, and the experience can be incredibly arresting. Whereas, the closer you get to something that's a little more mainstream or a lot more accessible, you have to take into account the sort of the balance between what the creators or the author wants to say versus what is, the player's experience of it is, which is really interesting, and I think which adds to the layers and the flavor of Silent Hill F, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's the goal we set out with
Mm.
is we're making a mainstream
Yeah.
game, but for me, a lot of the heart and soul
Yeah.
of creativity these days lies in indie gaming.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, how can we take the best
Of both
of
worlds. Yeah.
both worlds and put them
Yeah.
together? But again, I think a lot of the negative or just not the the discussion and criticism
Hmm.
you'll see, it seems a lot more amplified
Yep.
for Silent Hill F because it is targeting a major. It's a known property, it's a known
Right.
IP,
Exactly.
so you get a lot more buzz around there. If like a smaller indie game had done something like this, then I think it would have been not written off, but it'd be like, "Oh, yeah, this is,
This
like,
is
this
yeah.
is, like, kinda indie
Yeah.
spirit." Exactly, etcetera, etcetera. So, I think it's a tough
Yeah.
balance at that point in time, but y again, at the end of the day, it's like, because we really do appreciate that indie
Yeah.
spirit, it's like, how can we bring as much of that
Yeah.
into mainstream as possible without blowing out the budget or, like, pissing off a lot of people?
Yeah, yeah, no, obviously. Uh, I do want to touch on one more question with regards to difficulty because I think it's really incredibly interesting, especially when we talk about the accessibility of a game like Silent Hill F. A lot of people coming into this game, or probably Silent Hill F is their first of the franchise in many respects, and some of them, like never played a horror game. Um, what tell walk us through the choice between the difficulty modes, right? Because you got story, you got hard, and you got lost in the fog. And not only does the combat have its own difficulty challenge, you also set the puzzles to have their own difficulty challenges. So I found that really fascinating that players could tailor make the experiences. And I've had friends. A mutual friend of ours, Brian, shout out to Brian, was talking about how challenging the hard experience was. But walk us through, like your thoughts on the difficulty settings and how you came about with what you ended up with.
Gotcha. Yeah, shout outs to Brian. I remember when he was playing through the game, I'd be getting
Yeah,
texts from him.
yeah.
He'd be like, "Why is this guy so hard?" Yeah, and he's like, "I finally beat him."
Shout out to Brian, man.
"Good job." I'm like, "Sorry, Brian." Uh, I think okay, let's start with the puzzle because that's the easy
Yep,
one. Um, so Silent Hill as a series has always traditionally had different puzzle
yep.
difficulties. Uh, so that was actually one of, again, part of the key pillar, which is like it has to feel like a Silent
Familiarity.
Hill.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, is the puzzle element, and that was something that we set out to do from the very. So we budgeted for this from the very very beginning.
Yep.
We're like, okay, every puzzle has to be designed in a way that I can remix it into easier or harder versions
Amazing.
based on uh, based on the difficulty, uh, and that's something a lot of the puzzles are very cerebral. So we had Ryukishi Sensei. Basically, all the text-based puzzles were things that he wrote, and then we
That is
kind of helped
cool.
implement
Yeah.
into the game. Um, so that's the puzzles. That was basically a make it feel like Silent Hill kind of deal. For the combat, so this was the toughest thing for us because we knew to the extent of what uh, combat was like in previous Silent Hill games and the difficulty, and we actually used the Silent Hill Remake 2 as when we were balancing as a
As a
template.
baseline. Yep.
So hard in Silent Hill Remake 2 was interesting to us because we thought that was harder than our hard difficulty.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
based on, but it's for me, it was like it's a different type of player,
Yeah.
it's a different type of system. Um, and we're like, okay, if this is something that these guys can deal with, then it's like, okay, we should tune towards this direction. Uh, what we did take into account, and this is something that definitely a learning for the next title, is that in the very beginning we focused on two types of players. We focused on classic Silent Hill players, so we tried to make our story mode kind of more accessible for people who weren't used to combat as much. And then for more action horror gamers or more action gamers, that was the kind of the newer kind of generation of players, more action heavy gamers. We try to balance for them also. So these are the two kind of target groups in the beginning. And we found that we hit the action gamer kind of side really well,
Nice.
but I think we didn't hit the classic player as much. And it's actually in the very beginning, there's something you'll see where the there's a day one patch for the game, and basically does not do very much at all. Very, very, very minor things. But the thing that people probably notice the most is that our hard difficulty used to be called balanced. And for us, we're like, okay, because there's a lot of action gamers in the company
Sure.
too. And then we did a lot of play tests. Externally, we're like, okay, this seems like a balanced experience. But I think our miss here was like balanced for who? And while it was balanced for action gamers, action horror gamers, it was not a balanced experience for kind of classic Silent Hill
Right.
players. So I think this is more of a naming misstep for us.
Mhm.
So because people don't want to play at the beginning, we're like, okay, most players should be able to play this. It was still too hard for a lot of people. And again, that's not a hit on anyone's skill level or whatnot. It's just the type of
Yeah.
games you play, the type
Yeah.
of things you're interested to. If you eat spicy all the time, then
Your
that's
threshold.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, you have a threshold. It's like, but if you don't eat spicy very much at all, just and then like
It will destroy you.
too hot pepper, it will destroy you. Yeah, exactly. And that's not to say it's good or bad. It's just this is not something you usually engage with.
Yeah.
And that's it. Um, so but besides that, because of the story and then a lot of the memes and a lot of the buzz, so we're really grateful for all the buzz surrounding the game. My feed, my SNS feed is pretty much just like sexy fox mask and like
Man.
huge hulking Hinako beating the
Yes.
shit
Yeah.
out of things.
And the
It's
cosplays, by
it's
the
like
way,
that
the
right there.
Halloween cosplays, by the way, that's been incredible.
I know. Oh man, we love seeing that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
There's some really good. Actually, for a lot of designs in the game, we made it we designed them specifically so that they would be easy to
That
cosplay
was
or
a
easy to
question I
make
wanted to
props
ask.
out of.
That is really amazing that you guys thought about that. Yeah.
So every single thing in the game actually is designed with the how to put it, with the idea that it could be a physical object that people would actually really be interested in, really like. So like
Amazing.
even the wedding rings that have really specific, you can't see them as well.
Mm.
If you zoom in, if you pause and zoom in, you'll see that they have really intricate designs on them. And the whole point was not that you can't see this in the game, but it's like, oh, these are cool things that if you had to, if you want to make a physical version of it, it would be very cool. It wouldn't just be like rip, just like a smooth ring or
Yeah.
something like that. The mask,
Of course.
even like the uniform, and it was meant to be easy to do these kind of things. And I think the reason we see so many cosplays is that it's not terribly difficult to make a basic version of the cosplay. It gets progressively harder and harder based on which form you are, but also based on that, it's like you can be the same character, but very many different types of
course.
the same character.
Of course.
So that was something I actually thought about too. So here, going back to the difficulty though.
Yeah.
So something that we are very blessed with is that because of all these memes, because of all the buzz, and because of Yukishi Sensei, we actually had a large kind of group of players kind of interested in the game. So everything from kind of like J-horror enthusiasts,
Yep.
just kind of survival horror enthusiasts, action horror enthusiasts, Silent Hill fans, and then even, I don't want to say even, but especially fans of Yukishi Sensei's works.
Absolutely.
All the visual novels. We built for maybe like this level of players, like, okay, we balance it for around here. But the type of players that came in were like this.
Amazing.
So that's why you see on the forums, a lot of people are like, this is impossible. And then some other guy will be like, no, man, bro, this is easy. Just do this and you'll be done. It's like, you don't even have to think. It's brainless.
I know.
And the other guy's like, I've been stuck here for 3 days. And then all over here, it's like, I can't beat the first level kind of deal. And it's interesting because Hinako's actress, Kata-san,
Yes.
is actually streaming the game right now. And every time she streams, like the entire team is just like,
is she gonna get over this part now? Is she go? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like it's great for us. We've actually never seen anybody play who's never held like a controller before, but like the first stream, she's like, "Well, what do these buttons do?"
Yeah.
Or we're just like, we're like, "Oh no." Um, but because of this, this is a great problem to have. So even though we set out to build something very spiky, in the end, it drew enough people in that we're trying to basically find
Yeah.
ways to maybe create or rebalance the game in a short amount of time that can kind of appeal to kind of a larger
Yes.
audience here. So we don't care about it's not that we don't care. We don't really think it's an issue for the people who really crave the action horror because
Sure.
we think that's we've done
Yeah,
plenty
you've catered a
of
lot
it.
to
It's more
those.
like
Yeah.
exactly. It's more like we want to really focus on people who just want to enjoy the story
Yes.
and not have to engage. And for the difficulties, actually, what it was meant to be is our hard or originally balanced was if I play well, if I'm a kind of an action game player and I'm doing everything, I engage with the basic mechanics, your dodge, and then like stunning an enemy, like I'm using my resources well. Uh, you can get through the game. That was kind of like the cutoff for hard or originally balanced. Or story mode, it was kind of like I should be able to beat the game without engaging with any of our mechanics like focus, uh, or like perfect dodge or any of that kind of stuff. Or using sanity. It's like I can a counter. I can beat the game without engaging with any of these things
Right.
as long as I'm just kind of like playing okay. And then for Lost in the Fog, it's like if you do not engage with any of the mechanics we've built, you will not be able to get through
Right.
this. That was kind of like the thought process
Amazing.
for each of these. But towards the end, and again, this is a problem you always have with developers is that you've been on the game for so long that what you think is easy might not be easy for
Right.
uh, players outside. So even though we thought story mode was like this is like a cakewalk,
For everyone.
it's like I could beat
Yeah.
this. Yeah, not everyone sees it the same way.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
we're looking at ways at the moment to kind of make it so that we hit our original target, which is like you do not have to engage with
Mm.
the mechanics we've
Mm.
built in order to enjoy the story. You can just kind of
Got it.
go through your way and kind of mash through the game. And I think a lot of games have this kind of thing where it's like one button mode where like I just hit the button, then all sorts of crazy stylish things happen. And you know what? That's
Yeah.
fine because I'm not here. This type of player is not here to engage with your really kind of
Yeah.
core deep mechanics. They're here for the vibes, they're here for the story,
Yes.
they're here for the world. And that's fine. Everyone gets different things out of the same uh game, out of the same house. If I'm brave enough to say it, people take different perspectives away from the same piece of art.
Absolutely.
Um from if I look at a painting, what I appreciate is gonna be different from what you
That's right.
appreciate. It might overlap, but you know, it's all in your personal experience. And for us, it's like we want to, at this point, because we've been able to draw in more people than we expected, how can we kind of like make it so that people who are looking for a different perspective or their own personal take are able to play through the game with the least amount of pressure?
No, it's we can spend hours talking about this. I think this is an incredibly important design consideration. Like that, the way in which a person's experience is viewed for any game is so vastly different. As someone who's also chronically online, obviously, you see a lot of the sentiment around recent extraction shooters and things of that nature around like the scales of difficulty and PvP and PvE. So this conversation can really extend to any game. But one thing that I will say, and obviously I don't speak for everybody, but I think it's a testament to the work that your team has done and Konami and the marketing team to really be able to draw so many disparate and like diverse groups of people to the Silent Hill F experience. Like people who really just wanted to come in and see an incredible like story, like through this like lush cutscenes with incredible performances, or the people who really want to engage with the combat mechanics and are constantly replaying it on the hardest difficulty to hit all the achievements. So I think you guys really knocked it out of the park with this game. Um, we're almost at time, so I want to make sure that I get in a couple more questions for you. Um, you spent a lot of time talking about learning from the community feedback and like understanding what's the sentiment. If what's something that what's the most important thing that you've learned from making this game that you'll carry into future projects?
Mm, I think pacing is a big thing, but the again, the biggest miss for us is the trying to force specific emotions on the players that might end up actually hitting those emotions. So
Right.
frustration
Yep.
again,
Yep.
or the end of the game, we were really trying to go for frustration. And I think we succeeded,
Yep. You did.
but to the detriment of the player
Hmm.
experience. So we set out to do A, we did A, but was it actually fun?
Hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing I think we take out of that, um, which is, and I'm not saying it's like people are like, oh, it's like we're not we're still going to try to go for spiky experiences
Hmm.
because we want these unique things. We want to carry that kind of indie spirit forward, but we want to make sure that we don't sacrifice player enjoyment for a specific message or a specific uh, kind of like story
Yep.
beat. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, uh, personally.
That's amazing. And then I guess, will we see you? Can we expect to see you on more Silent Hill projects?
Gosh, I hope so. Uh, I think uh, so far I feel like it's been a pretty good
Yep.
reception uh, to the game. Again, positive, negative, but we still have to make a spike experience. Uh, I really hope so, mainly because, like I said, this is the first horror game for Neobards and for a lot of the team members. And in my experience, it's always the second game uh, that turns out the best because you have the
That's
experience
right.
from the first
That's
game.
right.
And as external developers, it's a shame that every project we take is usually in a genre that's very, very different. It keeps things interesting, of course, but it's kind of like cooking. Uh, you're like one day you're cooking, you're baking a pizza,
Yep.
and then the next day you're making soup, you know, and then it's like next day it's a cake. You're still cooking, but and there's techniques that carry over from each of these dishes to the next dish, but not 100%, you know. So for me, it's like, all right, so this is the first time we've made soup, and you're like, oh, it turned out pretty okay.
Turned out pretty
There's
great.
some things that could be, yeah, there's some things that could be improved, but it's a pretty good first
Yep.
try. Like, instead of making a cake next time, can we give soup another try? You know? And like, because we still remember all of these things over here. These are the things we can improve on, you know, and it's, you kind of take that to heart.
Yep.
And for us, it's like being able to, if we do get the chance to work on a second game, I think that's, for me, that's the ideal situation for Neobards, because I think we can take what we've learned, both positive and negative, and then refine those for the for whatever we do next.
That's amazing. Well, at least from me, my hope is that for you, Al, and for your team and Neobards, that you will get that second go around, because I certainly love Silent Hill F, and it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you and hear your thoughts and deep dive on the game. Um, the floor is yours. Is there anything you want to tell the audience about the game, about yourself, about your team's work, and before we wrap?
Mm, so I think the first thing is just like for everyone kind of watching, yeah, thanks for sticking us till the end over here. And especially for everyone who's kind of played the game or engaged with the game in any sort of way, it's like a really big thank you for giving us a chance and trying Silent Hill F out. And then especially thank you to Konami for giving us this chance to kind of show off what the studio is capable of. Because it's again, the team is just full of very passionate people, but because of the type of industry we're in, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to kind of show off exactly like what you're able to do. So again, really big thank you to Konami for that opportunity. And then for everyone kind of playing and engaging, it's it's been absolutely crazy to see all the feedback, both positive, both negative. And again, you take it, we see it as kind of like a learning opportunity for here. So we really appreciate all the discussion, everything from kind of the cosplay and the memes. I love the memes. Man, I love these memes. Uh, I have a gigantic folder of
Oh
memes. Of
man.
course, like, every time I see them, I'm like right click save, right click save. Uh, and then in the office group chat, we're just like constantly sending stuff around. But like everything, yeah, just from like kind of the cool fan art, the memes, to the criticism, like it's all important to
Yep.
us uh, because I think this is how you bring back a franchise and to the kind of the Silent Hill fans or the kind of survival horror fans out there. Is like, please keep talking about the game, supporting it, and this is something that when Konami sees this, they're also like, okay, this is something that people want. This is something that people will engage with, and because of this, the likelihood of getting new stuff is always increased. Uh, so I guess keep up the conversation. And again, thank you. We really thank everybody that we are able to make something in collaboration with Konami and our writer Rikishi-san. We have our concept artist Kara-san, and of course, music by Akira Yamaoka-san and then Inage Kensuke-san. Uh, it's a team effort. It's not just Neobards. It's not just Konami. It's a large group of people. It's too many to it's really too many to kind of note. If you guys just look at the credits, the list is gigantic, and then everything from kind of like Zukun and kind of Connect Echo. We have so many. We're external developers, but we have so many external developers working with
Of
us
course.
from everything from like the sound, the music, to the mocap, like outsourcing, like helping us with like character models, rigging it. It's and I've never, to be honest, because it's so big that I've never met many of these people, but that doesn't mean that they haven't had an impact on the game, on the creation of this. So a big, like, I don't know if any of you guys will see this, but I want to say a big thank you to everybody that worked with us on this too. And again, thank you to everyone playing the game and engaging with the community. We all really appreciate it. And we're just happy that we were able to make something that has resonated with a lot of people.
That's amazing. Well, once again, thanks, Al, for coming on the podcast. And thank you to Game Makers Notebook Podcast for having us to have this conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having me.